We have assembled. All right, we good, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, Herman's going to pick his flag. All right, we're going to be nothing if not timely here today. Good morning. My name is Kate Diaz. I am the very proud president of the Connecticut Education Association. I represent and have the privilege of being here today to talk about the more than 43,000 teachers that are CEA members across the state of Connecticut. What we're doing today is drawing attention to the fact that our legislators have not necessarily taken up the mantle of financial support for our teachers. What we've seen is action in policy places, and that is valuable to us, and we are grateful for those things. However, what we know is that teachers need to be recognized for their pandemic efforts, which were absolutely historic and legendary, and have yet to be acknowledged. We have acknowledged state employees. We have even used state dollars to acknowledge private employees, but have yet to acknowledge the Herculean effort it took to reopen schools during the pandemic, which, by the way, allowed all those other industries to reopen. It's time, and I and all of the teachers I represent are tired of waiting our turn. We have been very supportive. We have been engaged with our legislators. We have been engaged with our various communities, and across the board, everyone recognizes that the work that our teachers are doing is critical to the continued growth of the state of Connecticut. And yet, we still have not been acknowledged for our pandemic efforts. There's been no hero pay, no acknowledgement whatsoever. And even worse, my teachers are looking at starting salaries of an average of $48,000. Talk about a wage that is, quite frankly, just not competitive. We are asking our educators to sit there with master's degrees, to hold up and keep our communities intact during some of the most critical times, and yet we don't want to pay them. We want them to have excessive amount of education, incredible amounts of professional development, tremendous skill in navigating not just the educational needs of our students, but their social and emotional needs as well. And yet, we don't want to pay them. We're here today to draw attention to that. And don't be dismissive. This is a crisis. We have more than 1,300 certified staff openings in the state of Connecticut. Those are educators in classrooms. Those are teachers that are not there when your students go to school every day. Those are overcrowded classrooms to absorb students that don't have a teacher. This is real, it is present, and it is growing. We started the school year with certified teacher openings of 1,200. That is expanded to 1,300. And really the crisis is in the fact that the most need is felt in the areas of greatest challenge. We are talking about in our financially distressed communities, our rural communities. We know that our special education students are not being satisfied. We know that there are not enough teachers that are present in our schools to serve our students. You add in the fact that we have an additional 400 openings in terms of social workers and school psychologists, and I don't know what can be more pressing than that. So we need to do a big effort here in the state of Connecticut. We need to recognize that big problems require big, visible solutions, and a failure to act right here, right now, begs the question of what schools don't open in the fall. Think about that for a minute. What schools don't open? What schools don't have the staff to stay open? And we have seen that issue increasing, and you're going to hear from parents today who have had to keep their children home because schools couldn't be staffed. Who's next? What schools do we have to close to get the attention of this legislative session? When do we say we are going to put our money where our mouth is, and we are going to pay our teachers? We are going to respect the profession. We are going to lift it up, and we are going to hold it high so that people want to come and work in the state of Connecticut and not leave to our neighbors, because guess what? Connecticut's ranking for salary is dropping. And you know who is the neighbor that is the highest salary in the country? That is New York, just a short drive away. And don't make any mistakes in thinking The friends across the borders know that, and they're going to come and make our shortage worse if we don't take action today. We don't have much time left. This is a crisis, it is urgent, and it is going to impact every single school in the state of Connecticut if we fail to act. What I want to do is introduce you to a couple of friends who are going to illustrate why this is such a big issue. And the first person I'm going to ask to share their story is Kristen Baziaga, who is a teacher, but more significantly today, is she is the parent. Kristen?
Thank you, President Diaz. My name is Kristen Baziaga, and yes, I'm a high school physics teacher, but I'm also the parent of 3 students in public schools in Connecticut. Our oldest is Isaiah. He's graduating next month. He's going to UConn. He'll be up there in January. And the pandemic began when Isaiah was a freshman in high school. This class of seniors has lived through the pandemic right along with all their teachers. But now the pandemic has evolved into a different crisis of the teacher staff shortage. And his school is one of the tech schools, is a public school in Connecticut. They started the year with 14 new hires over the summer and still had 12 vacant positions. So in September and October, they were routinely closing schools because they just didn't have the staff. We would get an email the night before, school's canceled for tomorrow, the kids treat it like it's a snow day, but you know what? That's their education, their constitutional right. So throughout the school year, they've been having these school closures, and they evolved eventually to changing it to half days. And the half days were so that the teachers that did stay with the school would go cover other people's classes, whether they were certified for that position or not. Then they would take their prep after the kids left, making early dismissals, at least 10 early dismissals this year. So why does my kid get less of an education than the other schools around them, right? As a constitutional right, how are we going to do best for our kids? This has led to learning loss. This has led to kids feeling devalued, like school wasn't important, like there weren't teachers willing to do the work, when really it's just the job is so difficult. It's hard to find teachers that are going to be able to do it. So what I would like to see is I would like to call on the governor and legislators, concerned parents, citizens, whoever thinks that education is a public right and a public good, to keep in mind that we need to be paying our teachers. They need to be recognized for their contributions during COVID. There need to be incentives for them to join the profession, whether in the form of tax credits or hero pay, something to get teachers in the schools, things to retain us once we're here. It's not just my kid and one school. This is a problem that's coming to your district too. So if it could be that your kids' schools are closing 2 or 3 times a month, how will that impact you? Thank you.
We're also joined today by several legislators who are fellow teachers, and I'm so grateful to have them here because I think they know the challenges that we are facing, not just in the classroom, but in the halls behind us. So Kevin Brown, I'd like to invite you to speak.
Thank you, Kate. The crisis before us is a crisis. And as has been alluded to, I don't know what it's going to take for people to recognize this. And I take my job here as a legislator very seriously, but more importantly, I take my job as a teacher seriously. And I know what my students are facing in the classroom. I know what my own children are facing in their classrooms. And it's about respecting this profession. And making sure that it's not always about the money. The money is nice. But hearing the voices of the teachers who are on the ground. Right? I think it's oftentimes very easy to ignore the problem if you're not in a school. And certainly in these hallowed halls here, they're not in schools every day. They don't quite see what that looks like when there is a shortage. But it matters, and we need to take the time to actually listen to educators, hear their voices, hear the concerns about what's happening, and what that shortage actually looks like for the children that are in front of them every day. You know, there is nothing more important than we can give to our future generations than a quality education It's something that Connecticut has been known to do very well. I don't want us to lose sight of that now. I want us to continue moving forward and making sure that we provide all of our children with the best education possible, and that starts by making teachers a priority. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to invite Representative Poulos to come speak.
Thank you. Many people have often heard me say, if your car breaks down, you call a tow truck, they bring that car to a garage, the mechanic looks under the hood, and they work to get that car back on the road. If your child is sick, you call a doctor, you bring the child to the clinic, and the doctor examines the child, prescribes medicine, and gets your child on the road to recovery. We are facing great challenges in public education in this state. We can't fund public education properly. We have a teacher shortage in public education. We're navigating our way out of COVID. We're teaching new content, and we're working on academic recovery at the same time. It's now more than ever that we need to bring teachers and parents to the table to address and give input on the challenges that face our profession. And so that's what we're going to work on. The system has its challenges, and we're going to get the right people and the right voices to that table so that we could best inform and best make aware the people making decisions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to also ensure that you don't leave here today without really an excellent understanding of a parent's true experience. So, Ian, I'd like to give you the platform for a moment.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Ian Lawrenson. I've been representing the Bloomfield School District for quite a few years now, and I currently have one child in there and another child in East Hartford. I think it's concerning to me knowing that, well, I should be comfortable knowing that when I go to bed at night, that my kid is going to go to school the next day knowing that he will be receiving the proper education with the teacher present. And that's exactly what I'm here to talk about and advocate about, because as being a part of the Bloomfield School District and the parent programs, I got to see firsthand what a tough job these teachers have and how important it is that they're present. I recently learned that we have a shortage of, about 12 teachers in the Bloomfield School District, which may not seem like a big number, but it is. Because imagine how many students are learning from these teachers, or supposed to be learning. And I'm definitely concerned about my child. When I asked him, what did you do today? He said, oh, well, you know, we just stayed on the computer and just ran around the classroom. Well, how come? Oh, our teacher wasn't there. And my son hasn't had his, his language arts teacher available for probably about a month now. And I think we all should be concerned. I'm definitely concerned. I'm a strong advocate for my kid, and everyone should be as well for their kids. When I spoke to someone earlier about these budget cuts, I don't know too much about budget cuts, but I do know that usually they always start cutting with education. Why? These teachers deserve more, and they need us to advocate for them. All of them. You know, it's a trickle-down effect. What affects them affects my child. And when my child is affected, then I'm really concerned, and I feel like I should be involved. So if we all can just get together and make sure something happens, you know, something positive. And I'm a strong advocate for that.
Hey, we thank you.
Thank you.
Ian, thank you for your voice today. It means a lot to us that you're here. And Gail Jordan, I'd like to give you the opportunity from Bloomfield.
Thank you. I have been teaching in Bloomfield for the last 16 years. I actually had Mr. Lawrenson's, one of his older sons not long ago. As he said, we have several openings in Bloomfield, 5 of which have been open all year. We're talking about math teachers, we're talking about language arts, social studies, science, all the key components that students really need in order to have a sound, secure education. And not just need, it's what they deserve. The teachers in these positions, salary struggles, right? We're competing with other towns in our area, and because other salaries are more competitive, depending on the town, we've lost a lot of teachers. I have someone that taught the same amount of time as me, left to another district for $20,000 more. That is insane. We are having to poach from our own school districts, never mind the state next door. I'm concerned, I'm losing teachers right now to other school districts. This is that time of year, and there are so many openings and so many options. People are leaving, and not just leaving school to school, they're leaving the entire profession because we are very well qualified. Many of us have 6th-year degrees and are able to go into other professions that pay more and are a lot less stressful. The fact that we still have not been recognized throughout the pandemic, called heroes. I had to purchase my own device to be able to teach online, and I can't even get that paid back. So those kinds of things, and not being recognized for those sacrifices that we made for other people's children while we were still trying to maintain and provide for our own, it says a lot. And people are watching. It's very hard to get teachers to go into, or anyone to go into this profession. So if legislators, if the governor takes a look at this and is able to put particularly funding towards this, that would be amazing. My super is looking at, do I cut teachers? Do I cut school psychologists? No, the answer is no. We don't cut any of them. But our budgets are so tight and so constrained, and additional funding from the state would be so beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. And we're hoping that this doesn't become an either-or situation. I think that we all can recognize that there's so much to do that we can endlessly provide support. And I'm grateful to introduce to you a couple of other key legislators. Senator Anwar, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. You know, part of me thinks that this is no surprise that we are here having this conversation, because we have been systematically reducing the budgets. We have not been investing in our teachers. We have not been investing in the education the way we need to. And of course, what do you see the results? We do not have enough teachers. We were actually moving in this direction even before the pandemic, but the pandemic has created a ripple effect in so many different ways in all different professions. Teachers are no different. We are looking at healthcare workers, but we are also looking at what's happening with the education of our children. This is the time for investment. And this is the critical time if we do not invest in the future in our children. And I want to acknowledge we have students from our school systems over here as well, with some teachers in the audience as well. So thank you for being here so you can listen directly. And they're here because they want to listen to what's going on in this building, because it's your future that's at stake. And if we do not invest in our teachers, if we do not invest in our children and the education of our children, then we are failing the moral document, the budget. And if we are not able to look at this moral document that looks at our values and it's not living our values, then we have to go back and identify what are the areas of opportunity in the people who are over here, but also in the people who are actually going to make the right decision. So I stand here, I hear you, we are really concerned. We have heard from so many people. If you look across, there are individuals who are actually asking for very, very basic pay. They cannot even get that. So I know we have created guardrails, which has made us one of the richest states in the country, with one of the finest ratings for some of the rating agencies, but does that translate into impacting the future? As of right now, I'm not convinced the answer is yes to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Anwar, and I appreciate you utilizing the word investment, because I believe education is the single greatest investment we make, not only in the future, but in the here and now. That when our schools are strong, our economy is strong. So continuing to make that connection to investment, I think, is really critical, because that is really the basis for the decision making that we really want to happen. Invest in us. We will absolutely produce. And I'm proud to invite Dominique Johnson to join us for a moment. She has been an excellent advocate and supporter of us this session.
Thank you very much, Kate. I appreciate that. I'll be very quick because what's most important is that the students are here, their teachers are here, and that we are here with you, and we hear you, as the Senator said. There's nothing more precious than the ability to work in this building on what will make the most impact for our future. And I've been thinking a lot about the parable about how we plant seeds for shade with trees that we won't ever know. And to me, education is the vehicle for this change intergenerationally, and that's why it's so important we continue to fight for it. As a member of the Education Committee with my colleagues here, Reps Poulos and Brown, who are, as we all know, teachers themselves, it's been a very important thing for us to have former educators and current educators on this committee so that we can lend our voices to this within the building here. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to let you know we're doing what we can to continue these conversations because these are the most important conversations we have because education touches all. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm also going to ask a good friend, and God bless her, kindergarten teacher, Lisa Cordova, who represents the CREC Association as well. So thank you for being here, Lisa.
Hello, everyone. I am Lisa Cordova. I teach kindergarten for CREC. This is my 33rd year. So when I started, legislators had just begun to decide that teaching was an important profession, and they passed the Education Enhancement Act. And I was luckily one of the first recipients to be able to come into teaching under that. I was able to raise a family and focus on the job of teaching at the same time. Unfortunately, what's happening now is teachers who are starting out are only making $48,000. They have to take second jobs. It's hard for them to focus on all of the strategies that makes teaching the best that it can be. We all need everybody that is in this building behind us to come forward, say teachers are important. The profession of education must be supported by financial ways, so that way all of our students will be able to learn and we will continue to be the best state in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And I do appreciate, by the way, these teachers have taken and worked with their colleagues to get time to be here today because they are supposed to be in school. And we have teachers who have recognized that this is so important that other teachers have made it possible for them to be here. So we are very grateful to you for taking that time. I'd also like to invite Representative Sarah Kite to speak.
Thank you all for being here. I'm going to be very quick. I want to go back to a comment about investing in our children. I myself am the parent of someone who is still in public schools. I have a junior in the Fairfield Public High School system. And when we moved to Connecticut 7 years ago, the one thing we looked for was a quality school system. So we decided to move to Connecticut for that reason. So investing in your schools is really an investment in our state. It brings more people in. It brings more businesses in. If you have quality schools, quality homes, it leads to better economic opportunities for everybody. And one of the reasons I'm here is because I wanted to give a voice to our most vulnerable people. And our children really are our most vulnerable population. They have no real voice here. So we need to listen to the people who are around them for most of the day, which is their teachers. And I am eternally grateful for everything my children's teachers have done for them. I've spent hours and hours volunteering in the classroom. I see the challenges. I know how difficult this is in the best schools. And I can only imagine how it is in the most underfunded schools. We owe it to our children and to their teachers to make sure they have the resources they need to do their jobs effectively and safely. So I am committed to helping us find a way forward to get that funding to make sure our schools stay safe, healthy, and some of the best in the country. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And we certainly recognize that our legislative advocates have meant the world to us, and we look forward to continuing the tireless effort of bringing and lifting up these voices. I'm going to ask my partner in crime here, Don Williams, who is the Executive Director of CEA, to make a few remarks.
Thank you, Kate. There is absolutely a crisis for public education today, and I've got some facts, some figures, but also some solutions that underscore and then identify what we can do to combat this crisis. We began this school year with more than 1,200 vacancies for teachers, slots that went unfilled, the same number approximately for paraprofessionals. Today, after trying to work on that for an entire school year, the number of vacancies is worse. It's higher. We believe it's closer to 1,700. The same is true in terms of it being worse for paraprofessionals. Recently, schools have closed because there haven't been enough teachers in the classroom. We're here because there's still time to address this right now in the legislative session. That's what parents and the public have wanted all along. We began this legislative session with a poll of the public and parents to find out what they thought, what they believed should be done by this legislature. 75% said the legislature should take action to raise teacher salaries. 73% said educators should receive compensation for their work and sacrifice during COVID. 83% said students who complete teaching degrees should receive college tuition credit to encourage more students to go into the teaching profession. 84% of the public wants to see incentives to reduce class size, and that means growing the number of teachers. The first step in addressing a crisis is to understand that there is a crisis. The number of teachers considering leaving the profession has gone up dramatically, from 37% less than 2 years ago to 74% this year. The number of college students pursuing a teaching degree has decreased by 1/3. Salaries for educators have fallen behind. And as we know, schools have had to close. So it's time to fix the crisis. How do we do that? Pay educators the salaries they deserve, the same as similar professions that require a master's degree. Compensate those teachers for their sacrifice and work during COVID. Provide tuition credit for students who get a teaching degree and a teaching job. And this is very important, this final point. Specifically require accountability. Direct new dollars for education to the educators in the classroom. None of the bills in the legislature, as I speak, do this right now. We need accountability more than ever for where the dollars go, and those dollars need to go to teachers and the educators in the classroom serving and educating our children. So teachers in our public schools need your support more than ever. Thank you.
That's why Don is a good partner. He brings all the facts and figures. And I appreciate that greatly. And I'm also going to ask the person who has stood with me as we've testified, occasionally begged the legislature for support, Jocelyn Delancey, Vice President of CEA.
Good morning. We have just about a week left of this legislative session, a week to tackle this crisis head on and to address the issue of our teacher shortage. Every teacher that leaves the profession is a group, a classroom full of students who is impacted by that loss. Every single teacher. It impacts our class size. It impacts the personality that could have cared for that student in a way that drives and motivates them to do something cool and special and important in their lives, and we need to address this head on. I've been fortunate enough to be able to testify many times to the legislature about these issues, and what I've said is we cannot wait another year. We can't wait because with 1,300 classroom vacancies and another 300 or so service providers missing now, if we don't take a stand as a state in Connecticut to say we care about our teachers matter and they're important, we will have more than that when we start school in September. And we can't afford to do that. Our students need that care. I live about 10 minutes from the New York border. We are losing teachers to New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and even other states in other parts of the country, because some of those states are taking drastic and creative measures to address this shortage, to say, teachers, you are smart, sophisticated, important, and you matter, and we're going to pay you. We're going to recognize you for your pandemic efforts, and we are going to make sure that you are taken care of so that you can take care of our students in our public schools. We got about a week left. Having money towards schools is important, but directing it in the right places matters. Putting that money directly in teacher salaries and to recognizing their work during the pandemic. When we kept schools open, I started school the first day in person, September 2020, and I was in person that whole entire school year, committing to my students, taking time that I wasn't able to spend with my family who might have had illnesses that I couldn't take care of, to do that work. And many of our teachers across the state made even more sacrifices during that time period. So I urge the public to make sure that you push our government to take the time to make this legislation and do it right. Thank you.
If you leave here with only one message, let it be this: we cannot afford to wait and deal with this problem tomorrow, because the problem tomorrow may be one that requires a solution that is so extraordinary, we are really going to have to dig deep. Today, we can do something. Today, we can take a stand. We can make these requests. We can make good decisions that put Connecticut on the map in a positive way. But that is going to require courage and strength and conviction and belief that public education is truly the great equalizer that it has always been designed to be in the state of Connecticut. Thank you so much. I truly do appreciate those of you who joined us from the halls here, who took the time to share your thoughts and to be courageous and to stand up for the education that our students deserve and the working conditions that our teachers deserve. We know, most importantly, that if we take care of teachers, they will be able to take care of the children. So thank you very much. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer those. Thank you for, yep, go ahead.
Off the top, I can't remember, but it's been quite a few days. And you know, just to bring up again, during the pandemic, these kids have really regressed, you know, academically and stuff. And that's why I'm here to support these teachers, because I know how important it is that they be present in the classroom, you know, because what affects my child affects me as well.
All right, thank you very much. So I think that you're talking about a lot of different variables, and we had teachers who come and go from the profession for a myriad of reasons, certainly. What we've had from our teachers in the state of Connecticut is a strong commitment to providing students what they need. And so we have had shifts in curriculum that have been largely, honestly, due to needing to truncate curriculum to fit into some of the modified scheduling. So we have not had teachers articulate that they left due to sort of being offended by the curriculum, which is, I think, you're suggesting. And that has not been a source of ire that our teachers have presented. We certainly know that the pandemic brought a lot of challenges, and those we've been navigating in a variety of ways to try and ensure that teachers are in our classrooms at all times. All right, thank you very much. All right. Thank you for your time, and thank all of you for your time.
Careful, don't say that around
Yeah, I know, really. Yeah, you gotta be careful if you say to people like that. We appreciate you tremendously. So, you know, we'll invite you to the next one too. You know, and we're gonna invite you to the celebration when we get some.
Please do.
Yeah.
bring my kids.